The trade station called Harrow Point floated in the dark like a metal city in the sky. From the outside, it was only a ring of steel and light, a bright circle in the middle of empty space. But inside, it was busy and loud and full of life. Ships came and went every hour. Vendors shouted, neon signs blinked in many colors. Different species moved through the main corridors like a slow, constant river. In the middle of that river walked a tired dragon woman and her small daughter. The mother's name was Risa. Her scales were once a bright, shining gold, but now they had faded to a dull yellow-brown. Some plates were chipped. Her clothes were worn and patched in many places. She walked with a slight bend, as if an invisible weight pushed down on her shoulders. Her daughter, Leary, walked close to her side. Leary's scales were a soft copper, but they too had lost their shine. She looked too thin for her age. Her eyes, large and bright, moved from stall to stall, following the smell of food, but she did not tug at her mother's arm. She had already learned that asking did not help. Around them, the station was full of sound. A vendor called out the price of fried noodles. A group of miners laughed loudly near a bar. A cleaning drone hummed past them, brushing dust and trash from the floor. The air smelled of oil, metal, spices, and the faint, sharp scent of ozone from the station's power grid. Risa's stomach hurt from hunger, but she had grown used to that feeling. What hurt more was Leary's quietness. A child should not be this quiet, Risa thought. A child should be laughing, talking, asking too many questions. Leary only watched and walked. They stopped near a food stall that sold hot broth in paper cups. The steam carried the smell of meat and herbs. Risa swallowed and forced herself to speak. "Excuse me," she said softly, her voice a little rough. "Do you have any scraps you are going to throw away? My daughter, she has not eaten today." The stall owner, a short human with a gray beard, looked up. His eyes went from Risa's face to Leary's thin figure. A small frown appeared between his brows, but it was not a kind one. "No handouts," he said. "You want food? You pay. Station rules. No begging near the main stalls." Risa's tail twitched once, then stilled. "I understand. I am sorry." She stepped back, pulling Leary gently with her. Leary did not complain. She only looked at the cup of hot broth in the man's hand, then looked away. They tried again at another stall. This one sold flatbread and fried vegetables. The owner was a tall insectoid being with long, thin arms and bright, multifaceted eyes. "Please," Risa said, bowing her head. "Anything you cannot sell, a corner of bread. Just a little." The insectoid vendor clicked its mandibles in annoyance. "No," it answered. "You dragon refugees always asking, always wanting. I am not a charity. Move. You scare my paying customers." Risa felt heat rise up behind her eyes, but no tears fell. She had cried too much in the past weeks, and the tears no longer came so easily. She nodded again and moved away. Leary held her hand, her small claws curled around two of Risa's fingers. "Mother," Leary whispered, her voice very soft. "It's okay. I'm not that hungry." Risa's chest hurt at those words. "You are," she said, trying to smile. "I can hear your stomach. It makes little thunder sounds." Leary gave a tiny smile at that, but it faded quickly. As they walked, other people looked at them. Some turned their heads away. Some watched with cold eyes. A few looked almost sorry, but no one stepped forward. Farther down the main corridor, near a cracked holographic sign, a human sat on a metal bench and watched them pass. His name was Marcus Hale. Marcus had the look of someone who had seen too many battles and not enough peace. His hair was dark with a few streaks of gray, cut short. A faint scar ran from his left temple down past his cheek, disappearing into the stubble on his jaw. His right arm was made of metal and polymer, a cybernetic prosthetic that hummed quietly when he moved his fingers. He wore a simple jacket with a few faded patches sewn onto the sleeves. One patch showed the symbol of the Terran Defense Corps, a human military force that had fought in several border wars. Another patch, older and more worn, showed a small Earth flag. Marcus had come to Harrow Point because it was one of the only places where an ex-soldier could disappear into the crowd and not be asked too many questions. He took odd jobs, simple security work or ship repairs when he could get them. He did not talk much about his past, but he recognized certain things when he saw them. He saw the way Risa walked, each step careful, as if she was too tired to waste any energy. He saw how she kept Leary close, always placing herself between her child and the nearest group of strangers. He saw the way she spoke to the vendors, with too much respect and too much fear. Marcus had seen refugees before. He had seen them on burned-out planets, in overcrowded camps, on ships that were half working and half broken. He had watched people lose everything, not just their homes, but their hope. He watched Risa and Leary for a while. He saw the second rejection, the third. He watched Risa's shoulders sink lower each time. A younger Marcus might have looked away, not because he did not care, but because he had learned that you cannot save everyone. The galaxy was big and cruel in many places. One person's help sometimes felt like a drop of water on hot metal, there for a second, then gone. But today, Marcus did not look away. Something inside him refused. Maybe it was the way Leary tried to comfort her mother, even though she was the one who should be protected. Maybe it was the way Risa asked for food, never demanding, never angry, only desperate and still polite. Or maybe Marcus was just tired of walking past pain and pretending it wasn't there. He stood up from the bench. His cybernetic hand made a quiet whirring sound as he flexed the fingers, feeling the familiar weight and balance of it. He walked slowly through the crowd, following the dragon mother and her child. Risa stopped one more time, this time not at a stall but near a public water fountain. She filled a small, cracked cup with water and handed it to Leary. "Drink slowly," she said. "It will help a little." Leary took the cup with both hands and sipped. The water was cool but thin, with a slight metallic taste. Risa watched her drink, then took the cup back and swallowed the few drops that were left. Marcus stepped closer, but not too close. He knew better than to rush. People who were hunted or desperate often reacted strongly to sudden movement. "Excuse me," he said, his voice even and calm. "Are you two okay?" Risa turned at once, her body shifting so she was between Marcus and Leary. Her golden eyes, dulled by hunger, still held a sharp alertness. She looked at his cybernetic arm, scanned his jacket, his face, the way he stood. She did it all in a second. She was used to weighing danger quickly. We are fine," she said, though it was clear they were not. "We will not disturb you." Marcus shook his head slightly. "You aren't disturbing me. I saw you at the stalls." He nodded toward the food area. "They turned you away." A faint flush of shame crossed Risa's face. Some dragonkin scales changed tone slightly with emotion, and a deeper gold streak briefly flickered along her cheeks before fading. "We have no credits," she admitted quietly. "My daughter is hungry. I was only asking for scraps. I know I should not block the main path." Marcus felt a small tug in his chest at the way she added that last line, as if she expected to be scolded for even standing there. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then answered, "Risa. My daughter is Leary." Marcus looked down at Leary and tried a gentle smile. "Hello, Leary." Leary peeked from behind her mother's leg. "Hello," she whispered. Marcus looked back at Risa. "I'm Marcus. Come on. There's a place nearby. Quiet, not too expensive. Let me buy you both a meal." Risa's eyes widened. "We cannot repay you," she said at once. We have nothing. Didn't ask for payment, Marcus replied. Just come eat. You'll think better on a full stomach. I've gone hungry before. Believe me, it doesn't help with anything. Risa's claws flexed at her sides. She was fighting between pride, fear, and deep, deep need. Her stomach hurt. Leary's stomach hurt. She had tried everything she could think of. Still, asking for help from a stranger was hard. But Leary looked up at her with hopeful eyes, and Risa felt her resolve weaken. Is this safe? She asked. For my daughter? Marcus did not joke, did not get offended. He only nodded slowly. Yeah, he said. Safe. It's a small place. Family-owned. I go there a lot. They know me. If anyone bothers you, they deal with me first. He said it in a calm, matter-of-fact tone, not as a threat, but as a promise. Risa studied his face. She had seen cruel faces before. She had seen faces that hid lies. Marcus's face was tired, a little sad, but there was a steady honesty in his eyes. Very well, she said at last. We will come. Thank you. Marcus gave a small nod and turned toward a side corridor. Stay close, he said. The rush hour's starting. The crowds will thicken. As they walked, other people flowed around them. Some noticed the strange group, a human with a military patch, a dragon woman, and a thin child. A few stared. Most did not care. Marcus moved with ease through the traffic, making space with the quiet confidence of someone who had led squads through worse chaos than a busy space station. When a rough-looking miner brushed too close to Leary, Marcus shifted his body slightly, placing his metal arm in the way without even looking at the man. Risa noticed. She said nothing, but she felt a strange mix of relief and confusion. She had been pushed around and ignored since she arrived at Harrow Point. This was the first time someone had stepped in front of her and her child not to control them, but to protect them. They turned down a narrower corridor. The lights here were softer, the noise less sharp. A small sign flickered overhead. Cora's Kitchen. Home food, fair price. Marcus stopped in front of the door and looked back at Risa and Leary. Here we are, he said. Let's get you two something warm. Risa looked at the door, then at Marcus, then down at Leary, who stared at the sign with wide, hungry eyes. For the first time in many days, Risa felt something like hope stir in her chest. She did not know yet that this simple meal would change everything. She only knew that a human veteran had seen her pain and had not looked away. The warm smell of fresh food greeted them the moment Marcus opened the door to Cora's Kitchen. The little restaurant sat between two repair shops and looked almost hidden from the main crowd. Inside, soft yellow lights glowed from round lanterns hanging from the ceiling. The tables were clean but simple, made from smooth metal painted in warm brown colors. Pictures of planets and small ships decorated the walls. Cora's Kitchen did not look grand or expensive. It looked comforting, like a place where the world outside stopped rushing for a little while. A human woman stood behind the counter. She was tall, with curly black hair tied into a bun and a friendly round face. Her name, Cora, was printed on her apron. When she saw Marcus enter, her eyes brightened. Marcus Hale, she said with a big smile. Back again? Didn't expect you this early? Got company today, Marcus said, stepping aside so Risa and Leary could enter. Cora's eyes softened when she saw them. She noticed the tired way Risa stood, how Leary stayed close to her mother, and how both looked hungry. Welcome, Cora said with a warm tone. Sit anywhere you like. Risa hesitated for a moment. She was used to suspicious looks, to people shifting away when they saw dragonkin, but Cora's smile held no fear, only kindness. Risa gently guided Leary toward a booth near the wall. Marcus followed them and sat across from them. Leary climbed onto the seat and stared at the table's glossy surface. Her claws tapped it softly. She was trying to sit politely, the way her mother had taught her, even though she looked ready to fall asleep from exhaustion. Cora came over with a small holographic menu. "We serve simple food," she said. "Lots of soups, noodles, rice, and some baked dishes. Nothing too fancy, but everything is fresh." Before Risa could speak, Marcus raised a hand lightly. "Give them a big bowl of stew each," he said, "and bread on the side, and water. Maybe fruit tea if you have it." Risa's eyes widened. "Marcus, that is too much." Marcus shook his head. "It's all right. Eat first. Talk later." Cora nodded with a knowing smile. "Coming right up." As she left, Rasa and Leary sat quietly across from Marcus. The atmosphere in the restaurant was peaceful compared to the noisy corridor outside. A soft melody played from a speaker built into the wall, something slow and calming. For a few moments, nobody spoke. Risa kept her hands on the table, her claws curled slightly inward, as if she was waiting for something bad to happen. Leary leaned against her mother's arm, too tired to pretend she wasn't hungry. Marcus rested his metal arm on the table. The fingers made a faint humming sound when he tapped them gently. He watched the two dragonkin and took a slow breath. "You don't have to be afraid," he said softly. "Nobody here is going to throw you out." Risa looked down. "It is not easy to believe that," she admitted. "Not after the past weeks." Marcus nodded. "I get that." Cora returned with a large tray. She served 2 deep bowls of steaming stew in front of Risa and Leary. The broth was thick and golden, filled with soft vegetables and small pieces of protein. The smell filled the booth instantly. She placed a basket of warm bread beside them and set down 2 cups of warm fruit tea. When Leary saw the food, she froze for a moment. Her eyes widened like she was staring at something unbelievable. Risa placed a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. "It's all right," she whispered. "You can eat." Leary picked up the spoon with both hands and took a small sip. Her eyelids fluttered. The warmth spread across her face, and she took a second spoon, then a third, faster this time. Risa watched her, then slowly took a sip herself. The flavor was simple but rich. The warmth of it traveled down her throat and into her stomach, easing the tight ache inside. She had forgotten what real food tasted like. Marcus smiled slightly as he watched them eat. He did not interrupt. He only waited until their bowls were half empty before speaking again. "When did you arrive at Harrow Point?" he asked gently. Risa wiped her mouth with a napkin. 14 days ago," she answered. "We came on a transport ship. It was very crowded. Many refugees." Marcus nodded. "Dragonkin from your homeworld?" Risa's expression dimmed. "Yes. Our world is not safe now. Many lost everything. We were lucky to escape at all." She looked down at her cup before continuing. "We were told there was aid on Harrow Point, that refugees could register for help. Food, shelter, maybe work. But every time I tried to register, they told me my papers were incomplete, or missing, or delayed. We waited in many lines, but nothing changed." Marcus leaned back in his seat. "Have you reported the missing documents?" Risa shook her head. "I tried. They told me I must wait, always wait, and during this waiting, we cannot work, cannot find a place to sleep except the open hallways." Marcus frowned. "Someone stole your documents?" "Yes," Risa said softly. "They were taken from us the second night we arrived. I still do not know who did it." Leary finished her stew and leaned tiredly against her mother's side. Risa stroked her back slowly, comforting her in small circles the way dragonkin mothers did. Marcus studied Risa's eyes. "Do you have any relatives or friends here?" "No," she replied. "We came alone. My mate, he was lost before we escaped." Her voice tightened at the memory, but there was no anger, only sadness. "It is just Leary and me now." Marcus felt something heavy in his chest. He looked at Leary's thin arms, her sleepy eyes, and then back at Risa. He knew too well how easy it was for people in her situation to disappear in the crowd, overlooked, ignored, forgotten. Risa set her spoon down. She looked at Marcus with a mixture of confusion and gratitude. "Why are you helping us?" she asked quietly. "You do not know us." Marcus took a slow sip of his own drink before answering. "Because I've been hungry before," he said. "Not like this, maybe, but hungry, lost, trying to figure out what comes next." He tapped his metal arm gently. "Because I know what it's like to survive something and then feel like the galaxy moved on without you." Risa watched him with soft, curious eyes, her tail curling slightly around her legs. "But there is something else, too," Marcus added. "When I looked at you both out there, I saw how everyone turned away. And I thought, not today. Not this time." Risa lowered her gaze. "You are very kind." "It's not kindness," Marcus said. "It's what any decent person should do." Leary peeked up at him and smiled shyly. After a few moments, Cora returned to check on them. "Is the food all right?" she asked. "It is wonderful," Risa said sincerely. Cora smiled. "You two look like you needed it. If you want, I can bring more bread." Risa opened her mouth to decline, but Marcus spoke first. "Yes, please." Cora laughed softly and left to fetch it. When she was gone, Marcus leaned forward slightly. "I want to understand something," he said. "You said your documents were stolen. You also said all your registration attempts got blocked. Does that sound normal to you?" Risa frowned. "I thought maybe the station was too busy. Many refugees came before us. Maybe the system is slow." Marcus shook his head. "Maybe, but it could also be someone interfering on purpose." Risa blinked in surprise. "Why would anyone do that?" "That's what I want to find out," Marcus said. Risa's tail twitched anxiously. "Marcus, we are only simple refugees. We have nothing of value. There is no reason for anyone to hurt us." Marcus looked at her carefully. "Are you sure? Before you fled, did you work anywhere important? Know anything important?" Risa hesitated. Then she looked down at her cup again. "I was a cartographer," she said slowly. "A star map maker. I served in the Dragonkin astral fleet. I charted slipstream routes. Many secret ones. I was not high-ranking, but I had access to maps and navigation data." Marcus's eyebrows lifted slightly. "Star routes? The hidden kind?" "Yes," Risa said softly. "Routes used for fast travel. Dangerous but useful. Only the fleet knew them." Marcus leaned back again, thinking. "That might be more valuable than you think." "Valuable?" Risa whispered. "But the fleet is gone. My work is gone. I am nobody now." "Maybe," Marcus said, "but someone else might want what you remember." Risa's fingers tightened around her cup. "We only want safety, nothing else." Marcus nodded, understanding. "I know." Cora returned with more bread, placing it on the table. "Take your time eating," she said kindly. "No rush." Risa thanked her again. After Cora left, Marcus spoke in a calm, steady voice. "Risa," he said, "I want to help you get your documents back, and I want to see why your aid registration keeps failing. Something's wrong. And if you two are being targeted, we need to know." Risa looked overwhelmed. "Marcus, you have already done so much. A meal alone is more than anyone else has given us." Marcus smiled faintly. "A meal doesn't solve your problem. I'm not walking away while you're still in danger." Risa stared at him as if she could not quite believe his words. Her eyes softened, shimmering slightly in the warm light. "You are different from others," she whispered. "Most humans walk past us, but you stopped." Marcus shrugged. "I just did what felt right." Leary, sleepy from eating, leaned her head against her mother's arm again. Risa gently brushed a hand over Leary's hair. She looked up at Marcus with a tired but grateful smile. "Then, we accept your help," she said. "Thank you." Marcus felt a quiet determination settle inside him. He didn't know exactly what was happening around Risa and Leary yet, but he knew one thing for certain. They were not alone anymore, and he would not let them fall through the cracks of Harrow Point Station, not on his watch. The next morning, Harrow Point Station felt different to Risa. The wide halls were still busy, the lights still bright, and the noise still restless, but for the first time, she did not feel alone inside the giant metal world. Marcus walked beside her, not too close to scare her, not too far to leave her unprotected. Leary stayed between them, holding her mother's hand while looking at everything with curious eyes. They had slept in a small guest room inside Cora's kitchen. It wasn't meant for long-term stay, but Cora insisted they use it for the night. The room had 2 soft blankets, a small heater, and a clean bed. It was more comfort than Risa had experienced in weeks. Now, after a simple breakfast, Marcus had a clear plan. "We're going to meet some people," he said calmly as they walked. "People I trust. They'll help us gather information." Risa nodded but felt nervous. "Are they soldiers like you?" Marcus shook his head. "No. Most of them are retired. Some are station workers, engineers, old friends, good people." Risa kept walking but lowered her gaze. "I do not want anyone to get in trouble because of us." Marcus smiled gently. "Helping you won't cause trouble. Stopping the people hurting you might. But don't worry. No one is doing anything dangerous. We're only searching for truth." Leary tugged on Marcus's jacket. "Will your friends be nice?" "Yeah," Marcus said. "They will." Leary nodded softly and kept walking. Marcus led them to Section C-19, a quieter part of the station. The noise faded, replaced by the hum of machines and old ventilation pipes. They reached a door marked Community Support Center, Volunteers Only. Marcus pressed the keypad, and the door slid open. Inside was a small room filled with mismatched couches, tables covered in old datapads, and a few large screens mounted on the walls. 3 people sat inside, 2 humans and 1 tall, blue-skinned alien with glowing freckles. When they looked up and saw Marcus, they smiled. "Marcus Hale," said the first human, a woman with silver hair tied in a braid. "You're early. That's rare." Marcus grinned. "Morning, Nora." The tall, blue alien stood next, folding long fingers together. "You bring guests," he said in a calm, deep voice. "Yeah," Marcus said. "Friends who need help." Nora's warm gaze shifted to Risa and Leary. "Welcome," she said. "My name is Nora Trent. This is Vale." She gestured to the blue alien. "And the one hiding behind the desk is Flint." A short man popped his head up from behind a pile of data pads. "Not hiding," Flint said. "I just dropped a wrench." Risa gave a small bow. "I am Risa. This is my daughter Leary. Thank you for meeting us." Nora smiled. "We're happy to help." Marcus motioned them toward a couch. "Here's the situation," he began, explaining everything they had discovered. Stolen documents, blocked registration attempts, and the possibility of someone interfering. Nora listened carefully, tapping her fingers on her knee. Vale tilted his head. "Blocking aid applications is not a common error," he said softly. "Someone has been altering the system. It requires access." Flint adjusted his glasses. "I can run a check on the aid system logs, but if someone's hiding their tracks, it won't be easy." Marcus nodded. "I know, but try." Flint pulled up a holographic screen and started typing quickly. Nora leaned forward. "Risa, did you notice anyone following you after your documents were stolen? Anyone acting suspicious?" Risa thought for a moment. "There was a man, tall, wearing a gray coat. I saw him twice in the corridors, but he never came close." Marcus's jaw tightened slightly. Could be connected. Leary sat on the couch quietly, swinging her legs. Vale noticed and gently offered her a small holographic toy, two floating orbs that changed color when touched. Leary's eyes widened, and she shyly reached out to play with it. Risa gave Vale a grateful nod. After a few minutes, Flint whistled softly. Found something. Marcus stepped behind him. What is it? Flint zoomed in on a highlighted line of code. Here. Every time Risa tried to register her refugee status, someone manually flagged her profile for review. But review never happened. Instead, it was sent into a loop that led nowhere. So someone is blocking her on purpose, Marcus said. Yes, Flint replied. And the user ID used to do this. Belongs to a station official. Risa's eyes widened. A station official? Why would they target us? Nora crossed her arms. Because your knowledge is valuable. Slipstream routes are worth a fortune. But I do not have maps, Risa insisted. I only remember some routes. Fragments. I never tried to use them. Marcus nodded. That's enough for someone who wants information fast, Flint kept typing. There's more. Someone filed a request 2 days ago to move Risa's name onto a relocation list. They claimed she was applying for off-station transport assistance. But the request wasn't made by her. Marcus frowned. Meaning? Meaning someone was preparing to move her off Harrow Point without her knowing. Risa felt her throat tighten. She held Leary closer. They wanted to take us. Nora placed a calming hand on her shoulder. They didn't succeed, and now they won't. Marcus stood tall, his voice steady. We're going to expose whoever is behind this, and we're going to make sure you get proper protection. Risa's voice shook. I do not want to bring danger to your group. Marcus shook his head. This isn't danger. This is justice. You deserve safety. Leary deserves safety. And no one should be able to exploit you. Vale nodded slowly. Humans may be known for many things, but standing up for others is one of their brightest traits. Risa looked at Marcus, Nora, Vale, and Flint. For the first time, she felt a sense of belonging, something she had not felt since her homeworld fell. Over the next hours, the small group worked together like a well-trained team. Flint analyzed system logs. Vale reviewed security camera footage from public hallways. Nora contacted her old network of station volunteers. Marcus collected everything and connected the dots. Risa watched in quiet amazement. These people were not soldiers. They were not powerful officials. They were ordinary humans, yet they worked with strong determination and unity. Leary sat nearby, watching the floating holographic toy while occasionally glancing at Marcus with a trusting smile. At one point, Vale approached Risa. May I ask something? He said politely. Yes, Risa replied. Your people's star navigation. It is very complex, correct? Yes, she said. Dragonkin do not use digital maps only. We also use memory, patterns, stories passed from one navigator to another. Vale nodded. Then someone believes you carry secrets. Risa sighed. But I only want peace. I want my daughter to grow without fear. Marcus overheard and said, You will. We'll make sure of it. By evening, they had enough evidence to take a bold step. Nora opened a communication channel with the Station Oversight Board, a neutral authority that monitored official activity. She sent them a full report. Logs, camera clips, fake relocation request forms, and the identity of the official who blocked Risa's aid. The response was fast. A board representative agreed to meet Risa and Marcus the next day to issue new papers and temporary protection status. They also promised an investigation into the corrupt official. When Marcus delivered the news, Risa's eyes filled with tears she had held back for weeks. Thank you, she whispered. You saved us. You're not saved yet, Marcus said. but you're on the right path. That evening, Cora's kitchen hosted a quiet dinner for the whole group. The lights were dim, the atmosphere warm, and the smell of fresh bread filled the air. Leary sat between Marcus and Risa, eating happily. She laughed softly when Vale made the holographic toy turn green. Nora and Cora talked about making a donation box for other Dragonkin refugees. Flint proudly explained to Leary how computers talk to each other, making her giggle. For the first time since arriving at Harrow Point, Risa saw her daughter smile without fear. Marcus watched them all with calm satisfaction. He did not see himself as a hero. He saw himself as someone doing what needed to be done. Helping Risa and Leary felt natural, like a step he was always meant to take. When dinner ended and the group began to leave, Risa turned to Marcus. "You said humans are known for standing tall," she said softly. Marcus shrugged. "Sometimes." Risa shook her head. "No, today I saw it. You and your friends, you stand tall for people who have nothing, for people like us." Marcus looked down for a moment, almost shy. Then he gave a small smile. "Maybe," he said, "but tomorrow we finish this. You and Leary are getting protected, and the people who tried to use you won't get near you again." Risa felt a warm strength rise in her heart. Not fear this time. Hope. Humanity had stood tall for her. And tomorrow, everything would change. Morning arrived gently on Harrow Point Station. The artificial lights shifted from soft night blue to warm golden day glow, giving the metal corridors a welcoming shine. People moved slowly at this early hour, vendors setting up their stalls, workers preparing for duty shifts, and sleepy travelers rubbing their eyes as they checked their schedules. Marcus, Risa, and Leary walked together through the hallway, heading toward the station's oversight office. Nora, Vale, and Flint had offered to come with them, but Risa insisted they didn't need to risk any more attention. Still, Marcus contacted them through his datapad to keep them updated. Leary held her mother's hand, but this time she didn't hide behind her leg. Instead, she walked with a tiny bounce in her step. The previous night of warmth and kindness had changed her. She looked brighter, like a small light had turned back on inside her. Risa felt the same. Her scales seemed slightly less dull, her posture more steady. She still felt nervous, but for the first time in many weeks, she also felt steady hope. Marcus noticed it too. "You look stronger today," he said softly. Risa gave a shy smile. "A warm bed and real food can do that." Marcus looked down at Leary. "And you? Feeling all right?" Leary nodded quickly. "I am not scared today." Marcus gave her a small, warm smile. "Good." They reached the oversight office, a tall building with wide glass panels showing the inside. The entrance was guarded by two officials wearing blue uniforms and carrying data pads. When Marcus approached, one of the guards recognized him immediately. "Marcus Hale?" the guard said, surprised. "Haven't seen you here in years." Marcus nodded. "Morning, Officer Wren. I have an appointment. 3 people. Wren checked the list on his tablet. "Yes, I see it here. Oversight Representative Director Humyn will meet you in room 207. He looked at Risa and Leary with a curious expression, but no hostility. "You can go in," he said with a polite gesture. As the door slid open, Risa's heart beat faster. She took a deep breath. Marcus noticed and gently rested his metal hand near her arm, not touching her but offering calm support. Inside, the building was quieter than the rest of the station. Small plants in round containers decorated the halls. The soft hum of air filters filled the background. They rode a lift to the second floor and walked toward room 207. Leary squeezed her mother's hand. "Is this where they help us?" "Yes," Risa whispered. "This is where we get our papers." Marcus added, "And once we get that, they can't ignore you anymore." That made Leary stand straighter. When they reached the door, Marcus pressed the panel. It slid open to reveal a large office with wide windows, showing the stars outside. A middle-aged human man sat behind a desk piled with documents and holographic screens. His face was calm, thoughtful, and serious in a gentle way. "Good morning," he said. "I am Director Humyn." Risa bowed her head slightly. "Thank you for seeing us." "Of course," Humyn said, gesturing for them to sit. "I received the report from your friends yesterday evening. Very concerning information." Marcus took the seat to Risa's left, while Leary sat close to her mother, wide-eyed and curious about everything in the room. Humyn adjusted his glasses and pulled up a hologram showing the corrupted refugee files. "This is your case, Miss Risa. It is clear your registration was intentionally blocked. Someone also tried to place you on a transportation list without your permission." Risa nodded. "Yes. We did not request any relocation." Humyn's voice softened. "You and your daughter were targeted unfairly. The Oversight Board does not tolerate such behavior." Marcus asked, "Has the person behind this been identified?" Humyn nodded. "Yes. A mid-level station official named Saron Dal. He took bribes from outside groups to interfere with refugee cases. He has been suspended, and he will face an investigation." Risa felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Thank you," she whispered. "You deserve fair treatment," Humyn said firmly, "and today we will fix your situation." He reached into a drawer and pulled out 2 small metallic cards, each with a glowing chip embedded in the center. "These are temporary protection ID cards," he explained. "They provide safe access to shelter programs, food support, medical care, and work applications. They last for 6 months while we prepare your full citizenship papers." He handed one to Risa and one to Leary. Leary stared at the card. "Does this mean we can stay here?" she asked shyly. "Yes," Humyn said with a small smile. "You can stay here safely." Risa held the card with shaking hands. She blinked rapidly, overwhelmed. I do not know how to thank you." Marcus shook his head. "You don't have to." Humyn continued, "I will also arrange a safe place for you to live. A room in the community housing center, small but clean and quiet." Risa's eyes widened again. "A home?" "Yes," Humyn said. "A home." For the first time, real tears filled Risa's eyes. Not tears of fear or despair, tears of relief. Marcus looked at her and felt his chest grow warm. Leary hugged her mother's arm tightly, smiling with pure happiness. Humyn cleared his throat gently. "Miss Risa, we also reviewed your background in the Astral Fleet. Your skills as a cartographer are valuable. The Navigation Bureau on this station is always looking for skilled workers. If you want, I can recommend you for an interview." Risa gasped softly. "An interview? Work?" "Yes," Humyn said. "No rush, of course, but I believe you would be a strong candidate." Marcus smiled at her. "See? Things are turning around." Risa looked at him with grateful eyes. "You made this possible?" Marcus shrugged lightly. "You just needed someone to stand beside you, that's all." Humyn printed a small folder of documents and handed it to Risa. "These are your official details. Everything is updated and secure now." Risa took the folder carefully, almost reverently. "Thank you," she said again. "You're welcome," Humyn said warmly. "I wish you both a safe and hopeful future." After they left the office, Risa felt as if she was walking on air. Her steps were light, her eyes bright, and her heart full of emotion she could not fully express. Leary skipped beside her, hugging her ID card close to her chest. "Mother, we can live here now. We can sleep in a real room. And maybe I can go to the learning center Cora told me about." Risa smiled and stroked her daughter's head. "Yes, little light, we can." Marcus walked on the other side of them, watching their joy with quiet satisfaction. "So," he said, "first thing, let's go see your new home." Risa nodded eagerly. They walked to the community housing center, a tall building with large round windows and colorful murals painted across the entrance. A friendly alien caretaker welcomed them and led them to a small but cozy room. It had 2 beds, a round table, soft lights, and a small window that showed the endless stars outside. Leary jumped onto one of the beds and bounced lightly. "It's soft," she said with a laugh. Risa touched the blanket and sighed with relief. "This is more than I dreamed." Marcus leaned against the doorframe, smiling. "You deserve it." Risa turned to him. "How can I ever repay you?" Marcus shook his head. "You don't need to repay anything. Just live. Just be safe." She looked at him deeply. "You could have ignored us, like everyone else." "Maybe," Marcus said quietly. "But I didn't, and I'm glad." Leary jumped off the bed and ran to Marcus, wrapping her small arms around his waist. Marcus froze for a second, surprised, then gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Thank you, Marcus," she said in a tiny but sincere voice. Marcus swallowed softly. "You're welcome, kid." Risa watched them with full, warm eyes. Her heart felt lighter than it had in years. Over the next days, everything changed. Risa began preparing for her interview with the Navigation Bureau. Vale helped her practice questions. Nora taught her basic human customs so she wouldn't feel nervous. Flint fixed her temporary data pad and loaded it with study material. Leary joined a children's learning center where she made friends from many different species. She talked about stars, food, and her mother's stories of home. Marcus visited often. He would check on them, bring small gifts for Leary, or help Risa fill forms she didn't understand. He became a stable part of their lives. Whenever Leary saw him, she ran to him happily. Whenever Risa saw him, she felt safe. Soon, people across the community knew the story of the dragon mother and child who were rescued by a human veteran. Some offered help, others donated clothes or food. Slowly, attitudes softened. Risa realized something important. The galaxy feared humans for their strength, but misunderstood their greatest strength of all, their capacity to care deeply and stand for those in need. And Marcus showed that truth more clearly than any story she had ever heard. One evening, as the station lights dimmed to night mode, Risa stood near a window in her new room. Stars glittered like tiny jewels. Marcus entered quietly, checking on them before ending his day. Risa turned to him. "Marcus, our lives changed because you didn't look away." Marcus looked at her gently. "I'm glad I didn't." She stepped closer. "You gave us hope." "You gave my daughter safety. I will never forget what you did." Marcus smiled softly. "Then let's keep moving forward. Together if you want." Risa's heart warmed. "Yes," she whispered. "Together." Leary ran up, hugging both of them. "We are a team now." Marcus laughed. "Yeah, a good one." Outside, the stars shined brightly. Inside Harrow Point Station, a tired dragon mother and her brave daughter finally found what they had been searching for: a home, a future, and a human who refused to turn away.